Well, hello and welcome to another market update here with Colin, Heather, and Ken. And we are going to bring you some seriously flat news today. But we have some really interesting insights from Ken on some economic trends, and then Heather's going to give us some forecasting for next year. And I just had the most exciting phone call with a buyer. They called me to come and do some showings this weekend, and for the first time in forever, it seems like, I'm actually going to be able to show them like 5 houses all at once. They sent me 6 listings that they were interested in, and there are actually some that are still going to be on the market this weekend. Fantastic. So that felt great, because all I tend to do these days is like, oh, you want us to come and see some houses this weekend? Oh, those are the ones you're interested in? None of those are available. And so that's exciting for me as a buyer's agent. Like, okay, so I'm starting to see a little bit of an inventory build. People see things on the market, they come from out of town, they're actually able to come and see them. But anyway, so let's just jump right into this here. We're going to jump in with Ken and tell us about our flat rates, and then
so rates are basically flat, maybe even a little bit in the wrong direction, and I will quote those shortly. But what I wanted to share was some information that I've come across in the market that goes through appreciation since 1942. So in those 83 years, we've had 73 years that were all positive or up, 7 years that were negative, and 2 that were flat or 0%. So I researched this based on a lot of my clients asking me, is it a good time to buy, etc., because rates have put a lot of people on the sidelines. Another stat that I found was for every 1% decrease in interest rates, there's 5 million new qualified buyers. So that's a national number, of course, but it is indicative of what people will face. So being on the sidelines and waiting will only make competition worse as rates improve. So if rates go from 7 to 6, 5 million new buyers. 6 to 5, 10 million new buyers. So when we break that down to a local level, it's still a lot more competition. The other piece of information that's going to require some glasses is comparing the last housing cycle to the current. So if we look at the last housing cycle, geez, that's a tough combination of words. In 2008, or the collapse, compared to the current cycle, unemployment in 2008 was 10%. Currently, we're at 3.6. So total jobs, 138 million. Then now we're at 158 million. Back then, there were subprime loans, as we're all aware of, so they're very prevalent, and now they're basically non-existent. New building or new construction, at that time there were 7.65 million new construction, and now we're down to 4.6. So coming into the inventory issue that we're all facing now. Inventory then was 4 million compared to 770,000 now. Mortgage delinquency was over 10%, and now it's at 2.6. Foreclosures were at almost 5%, and now they're at 0.3. So when my clients are asking about time to buy, I do think time is the enemy, even though rates aren't super cooperative right this second. Regarding rates, last time we quoted, they're about the same, maybe a tick worse. Conforming could be 7 1/4, 7 3/8, depending on your qualifications, and jumbo is right about 7, again, depending on your qualifications.
So Ken, did you just say, did I hear you right, that with every drop 1% in the rate, we're expecting to see 5 million new buyers qualify?
That's correct. So 1% decrease in rate will enable 5 million new qualified buyers.
That is an incredible stat. That really does go to show how we will definitely see an increase in prices once the rates do start to
Without question.
fall.
all right, thanks a bunch, Ken. So now back over to Heather for some flat stats.
Some really boring news. So boring. We are going to have more interesting news for you since we listen every mid-year to the Buffini Bold Predictions. So Buffini & Company is the largest business coaching company in the world at this point, and they have some really great predictions about what is coming for next year. But for now, yes, just like the rates, everything is about flat. We have 5 months of inventory. We did see a few more sales with 244 closings, still lower than we were for June of last year, which was 388, but it climbed up a little bit. So that's why now 5 months of inventory represents a little bit more on the listing side. Hence, you actually have houses to show to your buyers. But for the overall market, it's still 5 months of inventory for SLO County residential, according to the California Regional MLS, which is where we always pull our stats. Median price is $825. Last month it was $830. Not much of a change there. 9 days on the market for our median, no change there. So everything is looking very similar to where we were last month. But the new news was that we were able to watch Bold Predictions, the largest business coaching company in the world, putting together their best economic forecasting hats to tell us what to expect in 2024. So we wanted to bring a little bit of that to you. And part of it goes hand in hand with all the great info that you just gave us, Ken, on the fact that our market is not set up to crash. So many buyers are waiting on the sidelines because they feel like that is still going to be coming because the overall economy is struggling. With Brian Buffini's bold predictions, he brought to us one stat, which is that real estate and construction makes up 60% of the entire U.S. economy. So whatever is happening with all of us is a pretty good indication of what's going on with our entire market. And where homeowners are sitting now with their equity is that 39% of Americans own their primary residence free and clear. They have no mortgage on it whatsoever. 39%, 4 out of every 10 people essentially. And then 29% of those homeowners have more than 50% of equity in their homes. So because of that and all the other reasons that you gave on lack of foreclosures, we're just not going to see that crash happening. They do predict, as we have mentioned before, that we'll see rates drop down somewhere between 4.5 and 5.5 for 2024, and that we'll see the start of that happening in the third quarter of this year. Would you agree? Is that what you're hearing out there too, or a little different?
The most common thing I hear now that we are cresting in rates and probably found the peak. How long we stay at that crest, we'll see, but I am hearing the prediction for third and fourth quarter, the inflation numbers to start to cooperate and rates to ease, and that it's universal. The economists that I listen to, that the Fed has overshot what they've been doing to fight inflation.
This is why we love to have Ken on our videos, because he is definitely a mortgage nerd.
Well, to nerd out a little further, an interesting piece of information that I came across is that the U.S. is the only country that includes what's called a rent equivalency in the inflation numbers. The rent equivalency is assigning a rent amount to all the properties that are sold. So it's arbitrary, but yet it's included in the inflation numbers or the consumer price index. And if that was removed, we would already be at 2%, which is the Fed's target.
Fantastic. So we love having Ken as a resource here on our videos, and they went into a lot of the nitty-gritty as to the reasons why the predictions are where they are for 2024 in the Buffini Bold predictions, and you can pick that up on the Good Life podcast if you want to check that out. One more piece of information that I picked up from that I thought was interesting was that they did say that we will probably still see some bad news. We will see some small bank failures and some other poor economic news on all the news channels this year, but they don't believe that it's going to be enough to really affect our real estate market. And overall, we're looking at next year is going to be a very busy year, a very competitive year for buyers. So now is a little window of opportunity that buyers have to come in when there isn't quite as much competition.
Okay, I think that's all we have for this month, and we'll look forward to seeing you in September. That's so crazy to say. We'll see you in September.
Whoa.
Bye.
Bye.